Hey everyone, I just wanted to come on here and share what's going on in my life right now. So I am building, and it's always been my process to kind of learn by doing. And as most of you, like most of you, we are now very much into the AI era, and I know all of you are building, and so am I. So I thought I would share what my process has been so far, what I'm building. So I've decided to kind of take the plunge, like a lot of people, and build in public. And so this is the first video where I'm just going to be sharing my process of how I'm building, what I'm working on week to week, and what my thought process is. And from time to time, I will share what my tech stack is. But the first place I started was um, with what I wanted to build and why. Now, the secondary objective is to learn everything about how AI is helping um, founders build, how it's helping marketers distribute and do what they do. This learning by doing has definitely been my way of doing things. For those who don't know me, I've been a marketer for 20 years, but I'm definitely not I was not educated in marketing, at least not formally from an institutional perspective. I've worked at companies like Microsoft and eBay and um, Points.com, Sprinkler, Deriv, and FinTech most recently. And over 20 years, definitely had, um, my education has been um, in the trenches, in the, doing the work. And so I see no reason to change that with AI. Um, and people say, some people are saying, oh, this time is different. And when you've been in this business 20 years, you realize, no, it's not. When I transitioned from retail to online, I learned HTML, and I had to learn HTML. I had to learn graphics design, and that was my inroad into technology, was learning HTML and transitioning as an offline marketer, CPG, into the online world. And some of the first experiences I built were in e-commerce, on portals like MSN. I built the money channel, the games channel, the shopping channel was how I started, and transitioned into the Amazon equivalent in Canada at the time, which was chapters.ca, and helped build their affiliate program. We had 9,000 affiliates by the time I ended. But all along, it was learning by doing. So affiliate marketing was very much a new practice. And so all of us that were in that space were kind of learning by doing and leveraging technology to do what we needed to do in terms of driving revenue for the businesses. So what am I doing? So I'm building an experience that I'm calling Borderless Self. And my first step was in understanding my why this business. And so the very, very first thing I did was to write a manifesto. And when you are a marketer and you come into an organization that's already sort of running, it's very difficult to kind of backtrack and write a manifesto. And so I'm very much enjoying this process of starting from scratch. This is the way I would do it if I was starting from scratch. And so, what is a manifesto intended to do? It's basically your why. Why are you building what you're building? Um, in sort of traditional startup tech speak, it's like, what's the problem you're trying to solve? But a manifesto really tries to go to the essence of why. What are the outcomes um, you're hoping for? What are you for and what are you against? Who is this for and who isn't it for? And you'll see why down the road that becomes really important, because as you make product um, decisions, coming back to the manifesto as your North Star is super helpful in helping you prioritize what you build. Because I can't tell you how many marketing organizations I've walked into and how many companies I've walked into where their target audience is everyone. And they are not very clear about who they're for and who they're not for. And you can tell that there really hasn't been that thinking around, um, you know, what the true why is of what they're building. And it's very difficult as a marketer um, to then kind of bring a founder on board or a CEO to why this work is important. So that's where I started, was writing a manifesto. I am going to share some bits from this manifesto. So the brand is Borderless Self. And so what does it mean to be borderless? I have worked in many countries. I've been an immigrant all my life. Initially as a South African refugee during the apartheid era, and immigrated to Canada. And since then, was an immigrant to the US, sponsored by Microsoft, and worked for Microsoft for over 12 years. And I have immigrated to Mexico, lived there for 4 years, where I was a fractional CMO from that location, working remote for 4 years, and immigrated to the Middle East, to Dubai, and worked there. And that is where I'm based. Right now, I'm in South Africa. I actually have worked in South Africa. I worked for the Danish embassy for over a year. And so there's been, that is definitely part of my identity. This notion of expanding your career through global mobility. Also, part of my identity is how technology changed my life. As you can imagine, being a young African woman, finding myself in the tech space, that journey, which I will share with you, has been tremendously exciting, but also tremendously rewarding. And at the end of the day, I believe I've designed a career that has been what I consider anti-fragile. And part of that is having this mindset of being a borderless person. And hence the brand Borderless Self. So, and the essence. So, Borderless Self, it's not about travel. It's not about working remotely from beautiful locations, even though I have. It's not about work. It's an identity. A borderless self expands beyond role borders, beyond industry borders, beyond infrastructure cycles. A borderless self does not cling to titles. A borderless self studies the rails. A borderless self deliberately expands surface area. This identity is not reserved for entrepreneurs. It is available to any professional willing to evolve. The movement, Borderless Self, is not motivational. It's strategic. It's for ambitious professionals who sense the ground is shifting beneath traditional career paths. It's for people who understand that stability is temporary. It's for people who choose expansion over fear. Technology changed my life, not because it was easy, but because I expanded with it. You do not need certainty. You need elasticity. You do not need prediction. You need adjacency. Infrastructure will shift again. It always does. The question is not whether change is coming. The question is whether your career is built to expand when it arrives. The commitment. If you choose the borderless self path, you commit to expansion over attachment. You commit to adjacency over rigidity. You commit to synthesis over silo. You commit to studying rails, not just features. You build a career that does not merely survive volatility. You build one that benefits from it. That is the anti-fragile career, and it's built beyond borders. Now, you'll see that in the manifesto, I haven't talked about product. I haven't talked about features. This is more just like the essence of who I'm building for. And then you might be surprised of the products that come out of that. And you can actually already start to see the first product that I'm building at borderlessself.com. But that's where I started. The second place I went after that as a marketer was brand. If I was going to build something, I want to have the scaffolding. I want to have the cohesive look and feel that no matter what I build, whether it's an app or an experience or a podcast or content, that there is a look and feel, there is the embedded embodiment of the brand in all of the assets. So hopefully you can see that. So designed a logo, designed a mark, which I'm actually quite pleased with, and made some decisions around fonts, made some decisions around a color palette and logos and how that comes out in our photography, etc. And you'll start to see this show up in more of my content. So those were the first two things that I focused on. Now you'll hear a lot of people say, oh, don't waste your time on brand, etc. Now it really depends. If you're building a quick app to try and make some quick bucks, then maybe you won't focus as much time on this. But if you're looking to build something that is sustainable and actually building a brand that you can live with over a longer period of time, I do think it's worth it to do that work. Write your manifesto and work on your brand. And then it becomes very easy as you design your website, as you design your app, as you design your content, to have a cohesive look and feel. So I will share with you what I'm building in my next little update, and continue to share the process. In the meantime, you can start to see the seeds of what I've built on borderlessself.com. I'd love to get your feedback. And if you're interested in testing the app, it's now in test flight. I haven't quite pushed it to the App Store yet, but I am looking for people who are willing to be part of my beta group of testers. If you are on iOS and have an iPhone and are willing to work in test flight so you can test the app before it gets to the App Store, hit me up. Click on any of the links on the borderlessself.com website. For those who I've worked with over the years, I'd love to hear from you. I would love to get your feedback and hear what you're doing.